The woolly mammoth, scientifically known as Mammuthus primigenius, was a species of mammoth that largely went extinct 10,000 years ago. The last known population of woolly mammoths on Wrangel Island went extinct 4,000 years ago. Climate change and human hunting were the main reasons why they went extinct. The closest existing species to the woolly mammoth is the Asian elephant, but the most obvious distinction is that modern-day elephants barely have any fur compared to the mammoths. Scientists believe that it is possible to bring back the woolly mammoths using genetic engineering and using surrogates. This raises the question, could the woolly mammoth survive in the modern day? Firstly, I would like to briefly summarize the history of the woolly mammoth and the discoveries that humans made about them in the past. The woolly mammoths roamed parts of Europe, Asia, and North America starting from 300,000 years ago, which was during the Pleistocene epoch, until their extinction 4,000 years ago. It's likely that Native Americans and Native Siberians encountered mammoth remains in the past. In 1796, George Cuvier identified the woolly mammoths to be an extinct elephant species. The first complete skeleton was documented in 1799 by a Siberian hunter named Osip Shumashov and was formally presented in 1808. In 2015, the Mammoth Genome Project was completed and people started discussing potential ways to revive the woolly mammoth, but it's currently unfeasible. We would need to find a good place for the woolly mammoths to live in. The best places for them to live in would be in Siberia, Alaska, or Canada. Mammoths are well suited for cold environments since they have thick fur and a layer of fat for insulation. They have longer and curved tusks, which would allow them to clear snow and access vegetation. Alternatively, they could live in other places that tend to have cold climates throughout the year. Additionally, there would have to be a lot of protection and security involved to ensure the woolly mammoth's survival. Perhaps keeping them in enclosures or wildlife sanctuaries might be beneficial to them. Another question arises, could they be kept with other elephant species? Since elephants and woolly mammoths are herbivores, it would be fine to keep them together as long as there's enough food to prevent competition. However, a major logistical problem is that elephants and woolly mammoths prefer different climates, since elephants don't have enough fur to keep them warm in cold environments. Though woolly mammoths and elephants share a common ancestor and are genetically similar, it isn't possible to interbreed them due to their different mating behaviors and their preference for different climates. However, one way to counter this issue would be to genetically modify elephants to have more fur to withstand the cold, so they could potentially breed with the woolly mammoths. The first step in genetically modifying an elephant would be to compare the genomes of elephants to woolly mammoths and other mammals with lots of fur to pinpoint genes that are responsible for fur thickness, length, and growth patterns. The woolly mammoth and Asian elephants have around 1.4 million specific genetic differences. The next and most simple step is to obtain elephant cells. Then we need to edit the elephant cells using gene editing tools like CRISPR-Cas9 and multiplexed editing. Next, we need to reprogram the genetically modified elephant cells to become induced pluripotent stem cells, which can differentiate into various types of cells, including those that are involved in fur growth. Next, we need to develop and test the edited cells by using in vitro testing or growing tissues in a lab. Next, we need to create an embryo using somatic cell transfer or artificial insemination. Lastly, we need to find a surrogate mother or an artificial womb so that the genetically modified elephants with a lot of fur can be born. However, this raises many ethical concerns too. Genetically modifying elephants could lead to unintended harm or health issues for the elephant, unintended effects on their development process, and could result in the elephant being rejected by its herd for having a different appearance. At the end of the day, elephants and woolly mammoths belong in different genera. However, having hybrid mammothants, which are basically mammoths and elephants, is one of the ways that could expand their population. Now this leads us to our next topic, proposed population sizes. The minimum viable population of woolly mammoths, if they are brought back, should be around 500 to 5,000 to ensure they have a long-term evolutionary success. But it could be as little as just 50 individuals. The reintroduced woolly mammoths would slowly evolve to lose their fur over several generations because of how the world is getting warmer. A major factor that we will need to analyze is the cost and logistics of doing such a project. Colossal Biosciences has raised a total of $75 million for their mammoth de-extinction project. So let's assume that it would cost that amount to bring back one woolly mammoth. If we bring back 50 woolly mammoths, 25 male and 25 female, it would cost $3.75 billion. Next, we would have to transport the mammoths from the labs to their enclosures or sanctuaries. Now, in order to reduce logistical costs, they could build the enclosures near the labs or next to the labs. There would have to be a lot of monitoring and additional research involved to ensure the survival of the woolly mammoth till at least their adulthood. When the woolly mammoth population grows to a significant size, they could be allowed to interact with different elephant species to see how they would react. Now, woolly mammoths lived in areas that were in between negative 30.3 to 14.5 degrees Celsius, while elephants live in areas that were between 20 degrees Celsius to 28 degrees Celsius. So, if they were to interact or live in a shared enclosure, it should be around 17 degrees Celsius to ensure that the temperature isn't too extreme for them. In conclusion, it is highly likely that the woolly mammoth could survive in the modern day by living in enclosures or wildlife sanctuaries that are protected. However, this would be a very expensive project and would require a lot of funds to be enacted successfully. In the future, when we have a better understanding of the woolly mammoths, it could be easier for us to raise woolly mammoths and ensure their long-term survival. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please consider liking, subscribing, and commenting on this video to give me feedback. Thank you for watching.